Obianuju Ekeocha. How'd I say that, Uju? Was that a good one?
That's great. That's great, Andrew.
She is an internationally acclaimed pro-life speaker and strategist, the founder and president of Culture of Life Africa, an initiative dedicated to the promotion and defense of the African values of the sanctity of life, beauty of marriage, blessings of motherhood, and the dignity of family life. She's got a new documentary out, which I've seen, called Strings Attached. You can watch it now on Amazon or Vimeo, and you can purchase DVDs at www.stringsattachedfilm.com. Uju, it's great to see you again.
It's great to speak with you, Andrew. I need to come to California at some point so that I'll be in studio.
Really? I know. You promise, but you never show up.
Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure. It's good to see you. So tell us about the documentary. What is Strings Attached about?
Yeah, so Strings Attached is a documentary that I decided to make because I had, for a number of years, I had gone to Africa to do some pro-life work, but not really pro-life work in the sense that most people are used to. I became aware, as an African living in the United Kingdom, I became aware of this bigger picture where a lot of people were coming from, countries like the United States, the United Kingdom, and other Western countries, really, to African nations, bringing aid and all kinds of things. But I just saw a pattern that was always being repeated, where these donors were then demanding particular things, especially on issues like abortion, on things like, comprehensive sexuality education. And in fact, the person that ticked me off to this bigger picture was the wife of Bill Gates. She didn't mean to, but she was doing this huge project in Africa. So it's the kind of thing that they come to Africa to do, where they say they're coming to do sexual and reproductive health and rights, and they come into African countries, and there's an open door for them. There's a red carpet for them, and then they decide to do whatever they please with all their money. So I had gone to Africa so many times, working on these issues, trying to get the Africans to be aware of this bigger picture. And then I started hearing these stories from just women, ordinary women I was seeing in towns and villages that I was going to, in cities, from one African country to the other, who were telling me, we've suffered this and that because of this Western nation that came, or this Western donor. And one day I decided, I'm going to take a camera and go into these countries and capture it. So that's really the story of Strings Attached. It's how Africa and African nations are getting a lot of gifts, but these are really gifts with strings attached.
So the strings attached, in other words, are there's gifts and aid, but they come along with sexual liberation and birth control and abortion. Is that the idea? Why it's called that? Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this is, one of your arguments about this, as you make in the film and in your book, Target Africa. Is that the name of the book?
Yes, that's right.
Which I also read. One of your arguments is this is essentially a kind of cultural colonialism. This is people who come from one culture telling another culture what they have to do to be righteous.
Absolutely, Andrew. And on the issue of contraception, I am very willing to speak and discuss with anyone, because as far as I'm concerned, it's something that we can make our case and tell people exactly what the issue here is. It's not so much, the morality of contraception. It's the fact that there is absolutely no dignity, even for the poorest person in Africa, that, someone like Bill Gates or Melinda Gates will come into their home, in a sense of speaking, with condoms and contraception, and thereby being the third person in their sexual relations with their husband or whatever. And this is happening in such a massive way. It's audacious. They come in and they're bringing in billions of dollars worth of IUDs and things like that. But that's not the only issue. It doesn't end there. It also extends to the fact that when they throw these things at all, these pharmaceutical products, they walk away, they go to their beautiful mansions in the United States of America, and then we have to deal with women who are suffering things like side effects without any recourse to anything. They can't sue anybody. The other time, some people came in with Norplant, which had already been phased out in most of these Western countries, and they were giving it to these rural women in some African nations. And these women spent years, suffering all kinds of problems. I think there is also like a human rights problem here, if you come to look at it. But then also something like abortion, where many of us agree that abortion is reprehensible in any country whatsoever. Then what more when somebody's coming from a country where abortion is legal to a country where abortion is not legal, and they're then forcing this ideology of abortion and trying to get the Africans to embrace this kind of ideology. They're selling it to children, they're selling it to women, but most Africans reject it, and still, because of the amount of money they have, it's just not a balanced discussion. The dynamics are just not in our favor because they come in with billions of dollars and we don't stand a chance.
So this is happening at the government level. In other words, they're saying to governments where abortion is illegal, they're saying if you don't loosen these laws, you don't get the aid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and they'll deny it, Andrew, but we know because I go to the United Nations every year, even if they don't say it in those exact words, they do the naming and shaming. They do exactly what they did to Ireland. They do something like a commission where it's just a handful of people at the UN, and then they name the country and say you're making your women suffer because you won't decriminalize abortion. So things like that.
Some of the organizations, you take a real big, hard swing at an organization called Maria Stopes, if I got the name right. I mean, these are guys.
Maria Stopes.
So tell us who that is.
Okay, so Marie Stopes International is an abortion organization, actually well-known abortion organization here in the United Kingdom. So the UK will have about 200,000 abortions a year. So Marie Stopes would perform about 70,000 of those abortions. So they're doing a good, let's say a good third of the abortions in the United Kingdom every year. So Marie Stopes International, however, is not really known for their 70,000 abortions in the UK each year. They are known for the millions of abortions that they are performing in developing countries, and a lot of which are in Africa. They come in, they set up shop, and they say they're a reproductive rights organization. They say they're coming to do family planning, and they go into these villages where no one sees them. There's absolutely no oversight. There's nothing, and they start performing illegal abortions. And I have seen this so many times. I mean, I've spoken to so many of their staff in African countries. I have interviewed them, and they are a terrible organization. They've been sanctioned in some African countries. They have been investigated in some African countries. They have been suspended in some African countries. But what is most egregious, I think, about Marie Stopes is that they get their funding mainly from governments. So how is it that a Western country gives money to this British organization to go into an African country and perform abortions? Huh. And it will surprise you to know that America, for 8 years of the Obama administration, or most of the 8 years, every American taxpayer was actually funding this British abortion organization called Marie Stopes without even knowing it.
Now, how do you feel about what Trump is doing? We were talking, before you came on, I was talking about the fact that some evangelicals attack Trump because of the way he's lived his life, and he hasn't been a faithful husband, and he's been, he plays fast and loose with the truth, and all these things that we know are true about Donald Trump. And yet he's been pretty good on this issue, hasn't he?
From day one. From day one of President Trump's administration, this was back in 2017, January, he signed an executive order which was going to reinstate the Mexico City policy, which is not really about Mexico, but which is about abortions everywhere in the world, especially developing countries, that to ensure that America will not fund any abortion organization or any abortion promoter or performer. So he took out all that money from them, and they gave it to other organizations that were, providing real health care. So it's not like he removed all that funding. He redirected it, but he took it away from organizations like Marie Stopes International that had been funded by the Obama administration for many years. He also took it away from an organization like International Planned Parenthood Federation. So that's Planned Parenthood, really, their mother organization. And since then, people have been screaming. They say he's racist. But I tell you that the Mexico City policy that President Trump reinstated was very much in line with the African way of life. It was very much in line with African beliefs as far as abortion is concerned. I was just in Uganda last week because this particular documentary, Strings Attached, was screened in Parliament last week. And I was surprised, Andrew, because an MP took the microphone during the open session, and she said, I just want to say it here in the open, but President Donald Trump is a godsend. These were her words. I didn't talk to her. She said this, and I'm so glad because I just saw the video yesterday. So we're going to share that also online. This MP, this member of parliament, said people have been saying all these bad things about President Trump, but he's actually a godsend, because this was about, an event about abortion we were talking about. So the Africans recognize it for those who actually understand what the issues are. So I'm really sorry, about the other things about his life and all of these things that you said, and it's true. I really second that. But as far as issues like abortion and even comprehensive sexuality education is concerned, I'm really very grateful for the way he has gone, and his administration. I've been to the White House a number of times. They have at every point in time listened to our plea. They have listened to me. The Strings Attached has been partly screened at the White House as well. That was last year, March, where members of the administration viewed some parts of it, and that was really very encouraging.
Do you think you have a chance of beating back this movement from the people like the Gates, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation? Do you think you have a chance of winning this fight?
The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and people like them, the Ford Foundation, the Hewlett and Packard Foundation, are private foundations. So let's just say someone can do with their money what they want. I think that's their defense. But I am ready to fight to the very end. Every government in the West that is bringing this kind of neo-colonialism to African countries. And let me just say it here. I will be speaking at the European Union in 2 weeks, exactly 2 weeks from now. And I have been asked to come and air my, and just air the problems and just say exactly what my issue is. And I am going to say it at this this is the EU Parliament in Brussels. I will be saying this exact thing that I've just said here now, that, whatever Western nation is out there giving money to these abortion organizations to come to Africa, it's an act of aggression, I think. I can go that far. It is an act of aggression because the Africans believe, most of these African countries believe that even the baby in the womb is a citizen in their country, that your country does not believe that anymore. It's your fault. It's not our fault. It has nothing to do with us. But some African countries
I have to stop you there.
These are our citizens, yeah.
Well, I'm going to be watching for your speech to the EU. That sounds really interesting. Obianuju Ekeocha. The film is Strings Attached. You can watch now on Amazon or Vimeo and purchase the DVDs at www.stringsattachedfilm.com. Uju, it's so good to see you. I hope you'll come back. And if you are in California, you have to drop by.
I'll make that happen. Thank you so much, Andrew, for having me on.
All right. Bye-bye.
Yeah.